Good evening and welcome to the broadcast of the Enid City Commission from the council chambers in the administration building on West Garriott.
They're all present, Linda. The invocation this evening is to be given by Kenneth Wade. Is Kenneth here?
I do not see him.
Rodney, would you fill in for Kenneth Wade? I know it doesn't balance that. If you would, and then the flag salute. Colonel Minozy, since this is your last time to meet with us, would you lead the flag salute? I know you're good at it. You've done it several times.
Practice makes perfect.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for letting us come here this evening as we do the business of the city of Enid. Let us be proud that we live in a country where we can express opinions and come together and discuss it all in your name. Also be with our men and women overseas as they fight for all that's freedom. In your heavenly name we pray. Amen.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Colonel Minozy, thank you for being here. We know it's your last time to meet with us. We wish you well in your retirement and know that Vance is a better base with your having been here. If you keep it up, we're going to have to put a label out there or a sign that says parking for Vice Wing Commander, along with parking for the Wing Commander. You've made a lot of meetings. Thank you for being here. Item 4, consider approval of minutes of the special commission meetings of May 7, 7, 11, and 12, 2015, and the rescheduled regular commission meeting of May 14, 2015.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Ron,
Second.
second by Ben? Aaron.
My box is still.
Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 5, awards, presentations, proclamations, and organizational business. Item 5.1, present the pet available for adoption at the city animal shelter.
Yeah, but he was just wriggling all over the place.
Loud enough to be a big dog.
So I was Nebraska.
Gene Robertson with Enid Animal Control. Up tonight is a little bit of roughly 3-month-old female terrier. She comes available Friday for adoption. I've named her Lucy. She's kind of a hyper little girl, but she needs a good home with some kids, and they take it all of her. We have a lot of animals out there that need homes. We have a lot of them that's been adopted. Our turnout is real good. We just need a lot more people out there. Our hours are from 10 to 5, Monday through Friday, and 12 to 3 on Saturday and Sunday. So come on out and take a look at what we have.
We'll get
It's
a
a good-looking retirement gift for the colonel.
Do what? What do you think? Thank you. Proclamations. Steve?
Mayor and Commissioners, we have several proclamations this evening. We want to begin with the election or the swearing-in ceremony for the Student City Council. So all those members of the Student City Council, would you come front and center, please, so we can get a good look at you and get you on television? And Commissioners, if you want to join them, I understand that you want to do some introductions as well. Microphone is front and center. Just go ahead and line. Very good. Thank you for doing that for us. And Linda Parks, our city clerk, will be doing the swearing in. Is that correct? That sounds awful serious. Okay, thank you for being here this evening. Commissioners, thanks for joining them.
I hate to admit this, but I don't know which one is mine. I've never actually seen them.
Start with Ward 1. You want to go first?
She needs to identify who she is because I've talked to her. You're Cynthia. Okay, great. This is my appointee, Cynthia Lloyd. She's lives in Ward 1, lives over on Sunnybrook, and she's my appointee to the Youth City Council.
Aaron.
My appointee was unable to make it tonight, Mayor. Elizabeth Price, she'll be here and will join this group as soon as she's back from church camp.
I've appointed Liliana De La Torre. Pleasure to have you here. Looking forward to whatever you have to contribute.
Mine is Braylee Culver, and she lives on North 16th in Ward 4, and she attended our study session, and she still wants to be on here. Congratulations.
Patrick Wine is going to be the Ward 5 Youth Commissioner, and he will be a senior at Enid High this fall. And we were talking about, he sat in on the study session too. I thought that would be a good, breaking in point, and that was a really good one to get broken in with. So we decided we're going to give them the budget next year.
Quentin Musa is my appointee from Ward 6. He's an upcoming junior at Enid High School. He's got letters in football and wrestling. He's National Honor Society and quite a kid. He's thinking about maybe some student council work, and he may rethink that after he spends a little time on the city council. So my pleasure to recommend him for Ward 6.
My appointment is Rachel Shuey. She's a good friend of mine. She attends Chisholm High School. She'll be a junior next year. And she's in the 2 honor societies. She runs on the track team, and she's a busy girl. She's at 580 and a couple other places. My pleasure to introduce Rachel Shuey.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, and state your name, please. Do solemnly swear that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Oklahoma. That I will not knowingly receive directly or indirectly any money or other valuable thing for the performance or non-performance of any act or duty pertaining to my office other than the compensation allowed by law. I further swear that I will faithfully discharge my duties as a member of the Enid Youth Council to the best of my ability.
Thank you, students.
Good job. Nothing like taking an oath on television, and it's going to be documented and it'll be played back 5 to 7 times in the next 4 or 5 days, so plenty of evidence of that. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here this evening. Colonel Mendoza, I got to bother you one more time, sir. And I know you don't know this is coming your way, so right off the bat, thank you for your service. It's been a pleasure to know you, and we will miss you. And the mayor had an idea that he wanted to, yeah, don't blame me, it's the mayor. So let me read this proclamation. Again, thank you for your service. Whereas Vance Air Force Base frequently strives to provide an invaluable friendship to the city of Enid since 1941, and this friendship, in part, is maintained by the stellar leadership of Vance Air Force Base. And whereas Colonel John J. Mendoza serves as the Vice Commander of the 71st Flying Training Wing. The wing consists of more than 2,700 personnel conducting specialized undergraduate pilot training for more than 300 U.S. Air Force and Allied student pilots each year. And whereas the wing operates more than 200 aircraft, flies more than 49,000 sorties annually, and logs more than 71,000 flying hours each year. Whereas the colonel received his commission in 1992 from the United States Air Force Academy and came to Enid and Vance Air Force Base as a student for specialized undergraduate pilot training. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, he earned his wings right here in Enid, Oklahoma. Whereas Colonel Mendoza will be retiring on September 1st, 2015. So whereas the city of Enid wishes to let it be known that Vance Air Force Base is an excellent neighbor, and as a community, the city of Enid is grateful for the leadership of Colonel Mendoza in supporting this partnership. Now therefore, Bill Shuey, the mayor of the city of Enid, Oklahoma, proclaims June 2nd, 2015 as Colonel John J.J. Mendoza Day. You're welcome. 2 standing ovations in one night. Congratulations. Okay. Yes. Right here. So we can
document.
Yes.
Mayor Shuey and everyone here, the council members, thank you very much for embarrassing the heck out of me tonight. You achieved that in spades and definitely surprise. You're very correct, sir, about the partnership that the base and the city of Enid share here. It is unlike any other, and I and everyone else out at the base can't say it enough. I think I've moved 15 times in my 23-plus years and been here twice and got to experience how great this city is. You guys have something special. You get it right, and we're honored to get to share this city with you and see it grow and see what the future will behold. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, another impromptu, Derek Smith, the guy that looks like he's in charge of security. Derek, would you come here, please? We always wish he'd wear, those sunglasses and have his hand over his ear like he's getting messages or whatever. Derek has been such a blessing to me. This is Derek Smith. He is our executive assistant to Mr. Gilbert, our city manager. And Derek also is retired from the Air Force. He's leaving the city of Enid to go back a little bit closer to the Air Force. So this is his final city commission meeting tonight. And we call him D1. There's several Dereks. And so we found out real quick that he was D1. Not D2 or 3 or 4 of the other ones. He was D1. And he was the last one in, but he went to the top real quick. And Derek, we just really appreciate you, and we know that we kind of sprung this on you for a last moment, but you always wanted your own television show, so here you are, and you're dressed to the nines for that. But Mayor Shuey has a gift that he wants to present to you.
Wish you the best.
Thank you, sir. It's been a pleasure.
You made me a better mayor, too.
Appreciate it, Mr. Mayor.
Now you know why he's called D1. All right, Mr. Gilbert, welcome back, and that's, Mayor and Commissioners, that is all our presentations tonight. Thank you very much.
There are good guys in the world, Derek, and you're one of them. Thank you for your short time. Any other organizational business? Okay. We'll go to items 5.3. Do we need to do anything else with 5.2, Tammy?
This is wrong.
I'm looking at the wrong
That's the
thing.
mayor's, yeah, the commission, I mean, the youth commission.
What do we do on the,
We're done.
oh, no, I don't think so. Unless you just want me to tell a little bit about it.
Item 5, pardon me?
Unless you just want me to talk about it for a minute.
I think that'd be good.
I think you should.
Okay. Well, you just saw us induct the Youth City Council, and something that I've wanted to do for a long time, and we finally kind of figured it out, how we were going to do it. It took some doing. But Commissioner Brownlee agreed to help me kind of oversee the Youth Council, and everybody else is going to probably get roped into doing that too, and the staff is going to work with us as well. And what we wanted to do was give the youth in our community a glimpse of what we do and help them kind of understand what we do. And we wanted to be able to share our knowledge with them, and we wanted to also get some fresh eyes, maybe different perspective on some issues that affect the kids in our town. And we think that we've got a great group of people coming in that are gonna be able to work on some projects. They're gonna work on some city projects themselves, and we're gonna oversee it. And I think it's gonna be a great union of minds when we get them involved with everything. So that's what you saw earlier, was this was the induction of our youth council, and we each picked one from each ward, and we will begin working with them, teaching them all about the beauty of city government. So.
Aaron?
She did a great job.
Thanks for taking on that, Tammy. Item 6, hearings. Item 5.3, update from Mike Cooper on the Advanced Development Authority. Mike?
Evening, Mayor, City Council, City Manager, staff. It's a pleasure to be here again. I know you're in budget season, so I'll try to be brief. I know that's very important. Appreciate what you do, by the way, on budget, because I think as being a former mayor and council member, that's probably one of the most important things you have to do. And remember that the decisions you're making makes your city a better place. So appreciate the time and effort, because I know it is a hard time to get through. I wanted to real briefly go through a couple of things that are going on, federal level, state level, and so I don't have any pictures tonight, so I'll try to be brief. First thing I wanted to tell you about was the DC trip that recently had back in April, and appreciate, I know Gerald went and the mayor and some councilmen, Tammy and Ben went. So we appreciate everybody that went on that. It's an opportunity for Vance and the Enid community to go up and not only say thanks, but also let those folks know that are making decisions related to Vance Air Force Base in this community that we are here. We do have needs and requirements and expectations. So we were able to do that. So I thank for all of you that went on behalf of the community, because I know it's time out of your jobs and out of the busy things that you do. Plus, it's a cost. So I appreciate you doing that. But I think it pays us dividends real well. First thing we did, and I took Gerald and the mayor with, and we went and met with the FAA Airport Director, Elliot Black. He's the person that we worked with the FAA that has responsibility for all the airports in the U.S. He's the one that was responsible for ensuring the $1.4 million to come from the FAA to assist us with our runway project. He was shocked, by the way, when I called to tell him that we'd like to come and talk to him, let him know where we're at, what the timing is of the runway, and some other issues that we have in working with them to see that that airport opens up on a timely manner, the runway expansion anyway. He was kind of shocked by that, because he said usually when people come begging for money and they get money, then they never see them again. So he was very thankful of what we did, and I know the mayor and Gerald know this, but he's very thankful for the time and effort that we spent to move the road where we did, not just where we did, but, well, really where we did, the extension that we made, because it's a tremendous safety factor that meant a lot from him due to an accident that happened at the Chicago Midway Airport when there was a death of a child, because the road was too close to the end of the runway. So he thanks us greatly for that. So it'll help us many things down the way, I think, on airspace protection. I know I talk to Colonel Minozzi all the time if it's about towers or structures that are in the way, but we always have airspace issues dealing with military training routes or ranges in the state. So I think we have a good friend in the FAA now, so because him and his airspace folks work very closely with us. The next thing that we did the next day, several of us, 10, because they limit us to how many people we can have in the Pentagon because of since 9/11, safety requirements there are very limited. So we went and met with the new Assistant Secretary of the Air Force for Installation, Environment, and Energy. That's the person who makes decisions based on our facility, whether it's growth, expansion, or whatever's dealing with installations, that person does. I met her early last year after she was nominated to be that position. Then when back in February, when the president announced her to be, that selected for that position. And then we worked with our delegation to make sure that she did get confirmed, which she did later in the year. But it's a real good friend to have. Her background is alternative energy, and if you look at all the persons at that level, whether it's Air Force, Army, or Navy, all of the people at that level over installations, they all have an alternative energy background. And the reason is because the military is trying to get most of their major installations off the grid, so they couldn't be impacted by any kind of outage or cybersecurity problems. So, and we'll continue to work with her on issues out at Vance. I don't think because power is so cheap in Oklahoma, as we found out, and it was good to have John Little with us representing OG&E, that really it isn't a matter of us getting a cheaper type of energy, but we can work with the Air Force on what they do, with their backup systems, maybe natural gas or something like that we'll work with them to do, and we'll continue to do that. But since it was new to her, Vance Air Force Base in Enid, I thought it was appropriate, and we took a lot of handouts, whether it's with the old Vance, you guys have seen it, the old Vance, the new Vance, all the many things that have happened here at Vance, not just inside the community, but on the base. When you look at, we told her about the over $200 million worth of $200 million worth of infrastructure improvements, roads that have been built, the runway expansion, the hangar, all the other things that the community has done quality of life wise, like the scholarship plan and all those sorts of things. So it was a good time for us to update on her, all of the things that the community and the base do to work together. And the whole idea was to continue the relationships with the person at that level, but also make sure that there was a good handoff from the person that was there before. Kathleen Ferguson is her deputy now, and actually Kathleen Ferguson is retiring in June, but she was the acting secretary in that position. So make sure there's a good handoff for the next person to making decisions about our base. Know that they truly do have a partner in Enid, Oklahoma. And in fact, this new secretary, Miranda Ballantyne, uses us as kind of the example of how communities and states and congressional delegations should work together to make things happen. As you know, our effort has always been about improving infrastructure, quality of life. Now it's moved more to how do we help them increase mission capability and reduce costs. So it was a great meeting. Back when I met with her last June, I'd asked her to come to Enid. We are, and see Vance Air Force Base. Now, it's very unusual for a person at that level to come here because we know how important Vance is, but at the end of the day, it's one of the smallest of the small bases. So I mentioned again when the mayor and some of the council folks were there that, hey, please come to Vance and Enid and let you really see what we're all about. And she said that, well, I committed to you in June that I would, and I will be. And so I thought it was going to be later in the summer, but she came to Enid last Tuesday and spent all day at Vance Air Force Base, spent the night, and then went on to Tinker and then back to D.C. So I know that Minozy and the folks out at Vance gave her a lot of very good briefs about Vance and, of course, the partnership. That it's very important that for us to make sure that she understands that is truly there. So it was very good for her to see all of the things that are going on, know why we built roads, we gave land, we've done all the things that we've done, and it's all because most of us have not been in the military. We truly understand we do play a role in what their mission is. So just like with the runway expansion is going to allow them to do T-38s over there, supersonics. I don't really know what their operation guys are going to ultimately do with that, but it is going to be a benefit. Plus, it's like having a fourth runway close to Vance. So after that, we had one evening, we had a reception where we invite all the delegation, all their staff. Again, those are the folks that we work with day in, day out to make things happen out there. So it's time for us to say thank you. We also had Air Force leadership. Kathleen Ferguson came, and also the Assistant Secretary of the Air Force came too, and because they know it's important too, because they want to say thank you to us as well, because it's important to have these relationships like they do. So on the state level, I wanted, we had just recently had a session in, so I've worked with the governor and the budget folks in the House and Senate to ensure that, again, we get the $1.2 million for the Oklahoma Strategic Military Planning Commission to utilize as seed money for all the projects that we do throughout the year, and the Department of Commerce, because our money flows through from the legislature to the Department of Commerce, and then they allocate it out if the projects are deemed appropriate. Well, we know that we're going to get, they're trying to hold the line on $1.2 million. I think we're going to get somewhere close to that. We should know next week. I thought I would know today, but we didn't. There were some folks that weren't around to do all the final discussion on that. But we did get money in the budget for that. So Gerald, you'll know that we'll probably have $200,000 to $250,000 again for projects that we deem is appropriate between ourselves and Vance Air Force Base. The other thing that happened this session, Colonel Minozy, as he might do, we talk a lot about aerospace issues. He called one of the facilities that they utilize in this state is Clinton Sherman Air Force Base. If any of you know where that's at, it's just south, I guess, of Clinton. Near Burns Flat. Used to be a SAC bomber base. It was closed outside of a BRAC during about 1972-73, just devastated the 5-county region, but has one of the longest runways, I would say, on the planet. I don't know, it's like 13,000 feet, but they use it a lot for their T1 operations, and so it's very important to them. Well, the Senate and the House were looking at eliminating certain boards and committees and different entities that do things for the state of Oklahoma, and one of them was the Southwest Oklahoma Development Association, SWODA, who manages what they call the spaceport. You've all heard that action, and I think that gives it a bad name in the fact that it has a lot of important missions that it does, particularly to Vance Air Force Base. So he called to let me know that that was an issue being considered for closure and not being funded anymore through the state, which would have killed their program and would have cost them a lot of money. They could have done that somewhere else, but I'm not sure of the exact cost, but it would have been huge. And so anyway, I worked with the Senate and the House and the governor to make sure that that, in fact, was one of the committees or commissions that they were looking at cutting, that they kept that in place, because it is important, not just to Vance, but other military installations in the state. So we were able to get that done. The other thing, as you know, I'm president of the Association of Defense Communities for the next couple of years. We have a conference in June. I've asked the mayor to go because this is the one where they're going to talk about, you've probably heard me say before, warm basing. They are not going to have a BRAC process. It's not budgeted in the 16 budget, so that means that you would not ever have a formalized process of a BRAC till about 2017 or 19. However, all of the services are looking at what they call warm basing, which is closing or walking away from different functions at military installations across the U.S. So we're going to have discussions and meeting with Department of Defense, the military services, and Congress to talk about those issues, how the impact or not is going to be on communities, that while your base may still be there, it may be half closed or totally. But so anyway, that's something to be very important. The other thing that I've done from that, in that conference, I've also asked Miranda Ballantyne. I'm going to host her and MC with her, the other secretaries at her level, and we'll talk about what impact that's going to have on communities, but where, for the ones that they know are going to stay and grow, then how can we move forward and how can we further assist with the public-to-public partnerships or these issues of increasing mission, reducing costs. So with that, that's kind of an overview of what I've been doing, and I know you have budget discussions going on, so unless you have any other questions, that's it for me. Okay.
Thank you, Mike. Item 6, hearings. Item 6.1, conduct a public hearing on an ordinance amending the Enid Municipal Code 2014, Title 9, entitled Building Regulations, Chapter 1, entitled Building Codes and Standards, Section 9-1-5, entitled Amendments to Existing Building Code, to differentiate fences from other necessary structures and create specific regulations for fencing, providing for repealer, savings clause, severability, and codification. Andrea?
Mayor, Commissioners, you reviewed this ordinance several weeks ago now at your study session, and the only change that has been made between then and now is 2 versions, and one version would require, it's kind of a sunset provision where it would require within 4 years for any non-conforming fence to be made conforming or to be removed. So the ordinance sets out the different materials that can and cannot be used, provides for setbacks and view restrictions, or prohibits the view restrictions, and then minimum requirements for front yards, and then side and rear yard fences. And Commissioner Van Hooser thought it would be a good idea to have a public hearing so that we could get public input on this, and so that is what we are here for tonight.
Sign.
Did anyone sign up to speak to this specific subject?
Sign thing.
Fair enough. Moving on to item 6.2, conduct a hearing on a land use amendment for Properties, Inc., located at 1505 and 1507 West Owen K. Garrett Road. Property is described as Track 5 and Track 5A in the northeast quarter of Section 13, Township 22 North, Range 7 West of the Indian Meridian, from medium intensity residential designation to medium-intensity commercial designation. Chris?
Thank you, Mayor, City Commissioners, City
And we
Manager.
do have several signed up to.
Okay. I'll give you a brief overview and then step aside and let those others speak. In the yellow box in front of you, it represents the site where currently the Windland Apartments are located. Hunt Properties has filed this request. They're asking that we change the land use from medium-intensity residential to medium-intensity commercial. And when we look at land use changes, we want to make sure that we have proper access. We have a 5-lane 412 highway fronting on this property. The green lines represent the sewers, and you can see a sewer is bisecting through the site. And the water is also in Ogunke area. So all of the infrastructure elements are in place to support the land use change. Are there any questions of staff?
Mike Bighart, did you sign up to speak on this?
Mr. Mayor, this issue.
We need
and
your
the-
name and your address, please.
Yep, sure. I'm Michael Big.
Speak on item 2, Mike.
Item 2. Well, again, you've got an 80% protest rate from residents within 300 feet of the exterior boundary of the property that we're wanting to change the comprehensive plan on. The comprehensive plan, as it exists now, doesn't allow this type of zoning within that area of the plan. We have to go in and spot zone in order to accommodate this particular request for zoning. I don't think spot zoning over the long term is in the best interest of the city of Enid. Now, I'll address the other remaining items I've got on number 3, if that's okay with the mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert Robinson, were you going to speak on that? Okay. Linda Rollins? Okay. A different one? Bruce Thomas?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to defer to question number 3.
Very good. Judy, is it Judy Sutton? Or Jody? Ma'am? Are you signed up to speak on this one? Okay.
Mayor, can I add something to this one before we go on?
Sure.
Apologies, I forgot to mention the protest. It's on the land use change, and there's also a protest on the rezoning. The blue area represents the site being considered this evening. That's where the Windland Apartments are. The yellow area represents the property owners that lie within 300 feet that are in protest. And that amount of land is almost 80%. Anytime the protest exceeds 50%, then it requires a supermajority of the commission to approve it, if you want to. Most of the times, you're just approving something with a simple majority. In this case, it would take 5 of you to approve the land use change because the protest is at the 80% level, which exceeds 50. Any questions about that? And I apologize for not highlighting that.
Say that one more time.
Okay. We are mandated by state law to notify everybody within 300 feet of a property that's being considered for land use change and/or rezoning. We do this every time a rezoning comes before you. Many of the times, the protest does not rise to over 50%. In this case, it did. It's at 80. And when it goes over 50%, you can still approve it, but it takes 5 of you, not 4.
Chris, please tell me who owns that property.
Bruce, help me on that.
That'd be in Brett Stratton.
Stratton.
Brett Stratton is the owner. I wasn't sure if it might have been a corporation.
Tell me why Hunt Properties is making this request.
They, in their
If they don't
petition,
own the dirt.
I'm sure that their contract, as far as purchasing of the property, hinges on the city approving the land use and rezoning. If approved, Hunt says in their application they will use it for retail and restaurant uses. That's all that's in their application.
Any other questions?
Mayor, it's a public hearing, so anybody who wants to speak to it can.
Right. Anybody else in the House wish to speak? Since it's a public hearing. We'll move on, we'll move on to item 6.3. Conduct a hearing rezoning property for Hunt Properties, Inc., located at 1505 and 1507 West Owen K. Garrett Road. Property is described as Tract 5 and Tract 5A in the northeast quarter of Section 13, Township 22 North, Range 7 West of the Indian Meridian, from R7 Residential Multifamily District to C3 General Commercial District.
Thank you. This is a companion item to the previous one. We're still talking about the Windland Apartments property delineated by the yellow box. Currently, it is zoned R7. The petition is seeking C3, and C3 is appropriate zoning for retail and restaurant uses. We do have C3 right next door. You can see there on the map. So it's a continuation of an existing district. And we have C1 across the street to the north. This also has the same protest on it, the same percentage of 80%. Again, if you want to approve it, it'll take at least 5 of you to make that happen. MAPC recommended approval both on the land use and the rezoning. Are there any questions? Some people have indicated they want to speak on this item.
Mike Bighart?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
We know your name and address.
I bet you don't remember my address, but that's beside the point.
What else does?
That's beside the point. I represent the Farm Credit Bank of Enid, and also represent Lou Ward, the Ward Petroleum, the Ward-related companies, all of whom are property owners within 300 feet of the area which is in which the proposed zoning affects. As you can tell, we've got an 80% protest rate. If we pull out the property that's owned by the city of Enid, which consists of the property immediately to the east of the blue property, the unnumbered property there, and also the property that's numbered as number 21 in the upper right-hand corner, those properties are owned by the city. If we pull those out, we've got almost a 90% protest rate from the residents. We had more, but some of the residents, or some of the, not residents, but some of the owners we couldn't locate. That's a substantial protest. Clearly and overwhelmingly, the neighbors object to this particular zoning. Some on the council have said that this is just a not in my backyard type of protest, and to some extent that's true. Do you have photo number 1? I've only got a couple of photos, but I think they're worth looking at. This is a shot, you can tell my source, Google Earth, but anyway, this is a shot looking across Winona to the north. You can see the homes there on Winona, then the apartments immediately behind those homes, and then Garrett behind that. Again, I don't know of any homeowner that wants this kind of activity directly backing up to their backyard without any kind of a buffer zoning or any kind of transitional zoning. We understand that this is going to be a restaurant operation or possibly a restaurant and retail combination. We really don't know what we're talking about. We don't know what type of restaurants coming in, if there'll be a drive-through involved, or there'll be a drive-in type restaurant. We really don't know. We don't know if it'll just be, sit-down facilities. We really don't know. But the neighbors are concerned about the type of nuisance that naturally comes with that type of an operation. And I use the term nuisance loosely. There's just certain factors that come with that particular type of an operation. You've got the lights from the operation itself. It'll be on at, into the evening, into the late evening. You've got cars, the lights from the cars will be there. You've got concerns regarding noise, smoke, odor, trash, litter, those sort of things. And these are all legitimate concerns from the neighbors. and they're concerns that this council should take into account when they're considering this zoning request. If we could pull up photo number 2, please. This is a little larger overhead of the property. As you can see, right in the center of the photo are the apartments themselves. To the west, the 3 properties to the west are all office type operations. The white building there on the far left is where the car wash is. But again, those other applications are office use. Well, that's zone C3. Those are clearly C1 uses of those particular properties. Mr. Ward's properties across the street are zone C1. The remaining properties around there are residential. Again, and I might mention that on to the west, and everyone's aware of this, there are several properties that are restaurant properties and retail properties. And right now, there's an existing buffer with the office properties between those properties and the residential properties. But the particular location we're talking about doesn't have any kind of a buffer or transitional zoning, which you try to have in place to prevent spillover, prevent spillover from the relatively highly intense commercial use to a low-intensity residential use. We talked a little bit about the comprehensive plan before, and I won't go through that again, but in order to do this, we have to change the comprehensive plan. I think it's a bad precedent to do spot zoning, change the comprehensive plan so we can change zoning and put different types of operations in the city where we deem fit on a short-term basis might best be in our interest. Again, I think it's not a good long-term philosophy. In short, this is just the use of the property as a restaurant and retail operations is just not consistent with the surrounding properties. Now, I need to talk just a little bit about traffic. I'm sorry, go back if you would. As you can tell, and I drew this in because it wasn't that visible on the map, but Garrett is divided highway from Van Buren, just a little bit west of Taylor. And then from that point on, it becomes 5-lane, with the middle lane being the turn lane. You know, we're going to have increased traffic issues there. Garrett is busy at this point on the highway, and that's a good thing. It's good to see that kind of activity in Enid. But again, it is going to complicate matters as they are right now. Traffic that uses that middle turn lane to pull into these properties is going to back up, and the only place for it to back up is back down Garrett toward Van Buren. Now, we got stoplights at Van Buren and at Johnson. We can't really put stoplights or traffic lights in at this location. If we do that, that slows traffic to a crawl. We can't really use XL and decel lanes there like we've got further out on Garrett, or like we see in cities where they have concentrations of retail and restaurant type operations. There's just not room for that. So what we're basically doing is we are taking a difficult traffic situation now and we're complicating it. Go ahead and pull up number 3 if you would, please. I copied out the statute, the Oklahoma statute that gives municipalities the authority for land use regulation. And as you can see right there, the very first item that's listed, and I'll read just a little bit if I can. Municipal regulations as to buildings, structures, and land shall be made in accordance with a comprehensive plan and designed to accomplish any of the following objectives. The first objective is to lessen congestion in the streets. You know, is this the kind of development we really want at that particular location? Do we really want to open up that part of Garrett to restaurant and retail operation? Is that an appropriate use of the land in that instance? Let me read the last little bit down there too, that I've highlighted in yellow. It says the regulations shall be made with reasonable consideration, among other things, as to the character of the district, the peculiar suitability of particular uses, and with a view to conserving the value of the buildings and encouraging the most appropriate use of land throughout the municipality. Again, is that what we're doing in this instance? Now, I want to finish by just talking a little bit about the neighbors. These neighbors are not protesting because they don't like Enid. And they're not protesting because they're anti-development or they're anti-growth. These people have been our longtime residents of Enid. They've been some of Enid's biggest supporters. These people have stepped up, opened their pocketbooks, given their time in good times and in bad times. And they'll be here supporting Enid when this property's changed hands 2 or 3 times. I think it's important that the commission consider their protest, the amount of the protest, and these issues. And I think that based on those particular issues, this particular rezoning application should be denied. Thank you very much, and I will answer any questions if anybody's got any questions.
Questions? Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Bruce Thomas.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, my name is Bruce Thomas. I'm a real estate broker for Landmark Real Estate of Enid. I live at 1517 Veneta Avenue. 3 years after the end of World War II, it was 1948, when the Windland Apartments were built on a 2-lane road known as Lahoma Road. At that time, in response to the baby boomer generation, I believe the highest and best use for that land was residential, multifamily. And now fast forward 67 years, and that same property now sits on a 5-lane US Highway 412, Owen K. Garriott, the commercial corridor running across Enid from east to west. 12 years ago, in 2003, Farm Credit of Enid had outgrown their facility fronting along the north side of Owen K. Garriott. And they decided to build a new office building on a new site. So the site they selected was not one to shy away from the busy traffic and the high exposure of Owen K. Garriott. The site they chose was just across the street. And they moved to the south side of Garriott. Same traffic, same exposure. However, in order to make that move, a change in zoning had to take place, and it did. The zoning changed from R7 multifamily to C3 general commercial. The same zoning change we petition here tonight. This project involves private investment. I say that because no public funds are being sought. No city improvements are necessary. The sewer line is there, it's already in place. The water line is there, it's already in place. The 5-lane highway out front, just mentioned, even has a center left turn lane. It's already in place. In the past 67 years, the Windland Apartments have never generated 1 dime of sales tax revenue for the city of Enid. This petition, if approved, will benefit Enid financially, with both an increase in the ad valorem tax base for our schools and with a reoccurring flow of sales tax revenue for our city coffers. Now, 67 years later, things have changed quite a bit. And I believe that now the highest and best use for this land is C3, general commercial. I hope you'll agree. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Anyone else to speak on this item, this subject? Your name and your address, please.
Joanne Boyd, 401 East York. I'm here to protest the rezoning of single-family residence to C1 light commercial. We don't need.
Ma'am, I think that's the next item. We have to finish this one first, and then you'll be up the next item. Thank you.
Mrs. Boyd is one of my friends. I've gotten to know her pretty well.
Great. But you will get to speak. Have we overlooked anyone on these 2 pages? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 6.3. Wait a minute, 6.4. Item 6.4. Conduct a hearing rezoning property for Derwin Norwood Jr., located at 418 and 424 East York. Property is described as lots 21 to 24, Block 8, Southern Heights, Second Edition, from R2 Single Family Residential District to C1 Light Commercial District. Chris?
Thank you, Mayor, City Commissioners, City Management. The site being considered tonight is defined in yellow outline. It fronts on Leona Mitchell and East York. There is significant road access on Leona Mitchell to support the rezoning. The green line in the alley north of the site is the sanitary sewer, and there is water in York as well as in Leona Mitchell. The infrastructure is in place to support the rezoning. The Planning Commission considered the low-intensity residential use as a use by review for C1, and they approved that use by review, so there is no land use change involved in this. It's simply a rezoning, and the applicant, Derwin Norwood Jr., is seeking C1 zoning. Currently, the property is zoned R2. In addition to this slide, you'll see 2 houses on the south side of York with a check mark in the box. Those people have called and are protesting the rezoning application that's being considered this evening. It does not rise to over 50% within 300 feet. I simply lift up that we have received some objections to the rezoning, and I anticipate you'll hear from them as soon as I yield the mic. And I'm willing to do that if there are no further questions of staff. Thank you.
Joanne Boyd, 401 East York, Enid, Oklahoma. We are protesting this rezoning because of health hazards. The kind of business that can go in there is not good for the community. It's not good for the health of the community. This is why we're protesting it. We don't need any health hazard equipment, chemicals, dust. We have enough of that.
Thank you. Robert Robinson?
Good evening to the mayor and to the council. My name is Robert Robinson. My address is 714 West Rush. Now, I don't live in the neighborhood, but I pastor a church here. Pastor a church at 501 East York. I've been pastoring there officially for 12 years, unofficially for about 15. I commuted from Oklahoma City and from Spencer here. And then about 3 years ago, my wife got an epiphany and said, okay, it's time to move to Enid so we can stay off the road. And we did. My concern, and I'm for the project, is economic growth and hope. A lot of times in so-called depressed areas, they stay depressed because people feel like, especially the young, where am I going to find a job? What am I going to do? How am I going to support? But I think when we send a message that Enid is willing to support economic growth across the board, regardless of who it may be, I think that sends a good message and then gives hope to our younger people coming up. I was very impressed, excuse me, by the junior council. I think that sends a message that you can be involved in government and find out what's going on. But I think this also sends the same type of message that as a young entrepreneur, as a young business person, as someone with goals, I don't have to move to Oklahoma City. I don't have to move to New York. I don't have to go to California, but I can stay where my roots are, and I can build something where my roots are, and then I can tell my children and their grandchildren that we can stay and be successful where we grew up. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is it Oletha Huey? Not Huey, Huey.
Olivette Huey.
Okay.
I live at 419 East York. And we are a community down there. And I have a grandchild. And the building that's going to be put there, my grandson get off the school bus. And I'm a single grandmother. My husband passed. It's where I can't, if it's there, when he get off on the bus, I can't see him when he get off. And if no one's there, you know, I don't have family here and stuff to help me with my grandson. And only thing I'm worried about is my grandson's safety and stuff like this. It's not 300 feet from my house, the building's not. I don't mind, you know, he having a building, you know, but I'm ready for him to have it somewhere else. You know, I don't have nothing against the young man, because I want him to project, you know, in the world. But I'm thinking of the safety of my grandson. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Erwin Norwood.
Derwin Norwood Jr. I live at 422 East Indiana Avenue. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Mr. City Manager and the quorum of commissioners. I wrote a brief letter to the Planning Commission explaining what I would like to do. And if I may, I'd like to read that to you. To the Planning Commission, I would like to make a proposed wish come true. As you may know, I work and live here in Enid, Oklahoma. I moved back home in 1997 to help my family and community. I worked for Lowe's Home Improvement for 3 years as a delivery driver and decided to go back and finish college. I started Derwin's Construction LLC 11 years ago. I have been successful, thanks be to God, and I'm in need of accommodating my growth by installing a nice metal building to store my small industrial work equipment in. It will help to protect it. I've purchased 4 lots near my home to where I could see it and monitor it. I plan on enclosing this area with a fence and a paved parking area. I have started cleaning these properties of trees and years of debris. I'm currently in the process of bringing in dirt to level the land. Thank you. And if I may, hopefully not being out of order, if I may, can I ask of a show of hands of those that come to support me in what I'm trying to do? Is that okay?
I'm going to ask Andrea.
Okay.
We
Okay.
will.
Those who came in favor to support me in what I'm trying to do. Thank you. I have no intentions of making a chicken coop or a makeshift shack. If I were to place a home there, it would be the same result as a metal building being there to protect my equipment. If I were to build me a house there, it would have the same effect due to the zoning that's there. I'm not doing this just for myself. I'm hoping that with this type of opportunity, I can inspire someone, whether they're young or old. Because so many times we hear conversations. Oh, they won't let us do this, they won't let us do that. Well, I'm here to prove that type of mentality or way of thinking to be an error. And as I see the city of Enid grow, I moved back home from Tulsa, Oklahoma, where I lived 5 years, and I had a power washing business over there. Came back home to Enid to help my family and build this community. And as I see the city of Enid grow, I want to grow with the city of Enid. I work in this community. I'm a citizen in this country. And I get sick and tired of seeing people just cut lots and cut grass. That's all you see. It's time that we develop. I'm not here asking for any handouts. I'm not here asking for any financial aid. I'm going to do this by myself, if you all approve that. I just thank you for the opportunity, and whatever decision you all make, thank you very much for this time.
Thank you. Faye Austin.
Mr. Mayor and the commission, I just have a form of a question. If this would happen to pass to rezone the property, would that in any way depreciate the present owner's property if this was to come to pass?
That's not even something that you could answer.
That's not a question you could answer? Okay.
That's speculation. No one could answer that.
Okay. I didn't mean to speculate, but I was just wondering, would it depreciate their property if it was rezoned to a commercial? Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead. Come ahead, go ahead.
Thank you. I want to make a clarification to Ms. Joanne Boyd and to Ms. Olivet. I am not intending to make this an auto mechanic shop and have chemicals or anything like that in there. This is basically a place to store my equipment, to keep it protected from the elements and those who are out there willing to steal from you. And just so happened today, when I came home from lunch, there were some gentlemen riding slowly down the alley, scoping things out. So I went out front on my front porch and I made myself visual. And if they were to take what I've worked for, that can really do a catastrophic effect on my life and my family's life. And we don't want that in our community. And you all know as well as I know, everything I do things decently and in order, and I do things in a beautiful way. And it's nothing personal. I still love both of you. Don't have nothing against you. I still love you. But I just want you all to know I'm not running a mechanic shop. There's not going to be chemicals or any such thing. This is just a place to be able to store my equipment. And I say this before everyone from my heart. If you all need my help, I'm willing to help you.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Olivet Mitchell, Huey, and I understand that. And one thing about...
Ma'am, if you would, please
okay.
Speak into the mic.
Okay, one thing about this community, it's quiet. I don't want a whole lot of business trucks running through there when you got kids. If they riding their bicycles and stuff, you have to be outside. I'll be outside with my grandson and stuff like this. I cuts my own grass. If I can't afford it, I cuts my grass because I own this property. But one thing about it, he have helped me, and I appreciate it. But I want quietness. I have high blood pressure. I want to be all around to raise my grandchild. That's the only thing. I just want quiet. I don't want no zoning there. It's not 300 feet from my house, and I'm right across that land. That's all I ask for, respect and everything else. Safety of my grandchild.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this item? We'll move on to item 6.4. 6.5. Conduct a hearing on a land use amendment for Real Estate Results LLC for property located in the 5900 to 6600 block of West Owen K. Garrett Road, described as a part of the north half of Section 16, Township 22 North, Range 7 West of the Indian Meridian, from agriculture designation to medium-intensity commercial designation. Chris?
Thank you, Mayor, City Commissioners. This is a companion item to the one that will follow, which will be a hearing on the rezoning. This is a hearing on the land use change from agricultural land use to medium-intensity commercial. And when we, again, look at land use changes, we want to make sure that we have access to road. In the northeast corner of that yellow box, which is right next to the existing hotel there, that's where the frontage road ends at this point in time and would be a place for the property to pick up and continue it. Water is also immediately adjacent at that location to the property, available to be extended. The one infrastructure item that is missing from this site is the sanitary sewer. It is about approximately a half a mile east of this location. Are there any questions?
We do have several signed up to.
Thank you.
This item. Chris? Linda Rollins, are you signed up to speak on this one? Are you signed up? Are you going to speak on any of them? No. Okay. Makes my job a lot easier. Chris Trojan.
I'll defer to the next item.
Okay. Anyone else to speak on item 6.5? We will move on to item 6.6. Conduct a hearing rezoning property for Real Estate Results LLC located in the 5900 to 6600 block west of Owen K. Garrett Road, described as part of the north half of Section 16, Township 22 North, Range 7 West of the Indian Meridian, from Agriculture District to C3 General Commercial District. Chris?
Thank you, Mayor. As you can see on the slide on the screen, currently the zoning is agricultural. The petition is asking that to be changed to C3, and they would develop it as commercial. Can I answer any questions for you?
David?
Mr. Trojan may be able to answer this if you would address it. Is there an application imminent for the next section just behind that?
Yes, and it involves some apartments and some single-family and different densities. And the reason it's not here with this is there's a different time frame for notification to everybody that lives within a quarter of a mile of a piece of property that's receiving multifamily, and there's a greater time frame that we, the city, have to give them. And because of that, the applicant withdrew that and came forth at this time with commercial. Next month, you will hear about the residential piece.
Thank you.
Chris Trojan.
Does anyone have any questions? Otherwise, I'll let you move on with your meetings because you're still going to have a long meeting this evening.
We'll be here a while. If you have. Thank you. Judy Sutton, did you get to speak? Well, no, that's a different item. Item 7.
6.6.
Did I just read 6.5? I think I read. Which one did we cover, Chris?
You through all the hearings. You are now ready for item 7.1. This will be the part where you will take a vote.
Item 7.1, Consider a resolution modifying the land use map of the Enid Metropolitan Area Comprehensive Plan 2025 for Hunt Properties, Inc., located at 1505 and 1507 West O&K Garriott Road, for property described as Track 5 and Track 5A in the northeast quarter of Section 13, Township 22 North, Range 7 West of the Indian Meridian for medium intensity residential designation to medium intensity commercial designation. Chris?
Approval.
Second.
A motion by David, a second by Tammy. Further questions, comments? I have a comment. Most restaurants that I see of this nature are in a retail strip center or located near a mall, and those are in cities not in Enid, Oklahoma. Another item that is a concern of mine, and it's a good concern, Hunt Properties will have other locations for restaurants in Enid, Oklahoma. Now, this requires a supermajority.
Yes.
David, would you repeat your motion? Or is it item 7.1 in its entirety?
Yes, sir, 7.1 in its entirety, and I move approval.
I got a question. When you go to C2 to C3, there's no way of knowing what can actually go in there then?
That's correct, Commissioner. If C3 zoning, there's a list of many uses that can happen in that district.
I think everybody wouldn't mind a restaurant, but if we knew that was for certain, that would sure make a difference.
What we know for certain is the application says restaurant and retail uses, and both of those are permitted in C3.
There's a restaurant right there. Everything around there is commercial already. So I don't really understand the argument about all these commercial businesses that wanted their businesses to have that right to be commercially and be located there, but they don't want somebody else's commercial business to be there. And I don't buy that. It's on a state highway. There's going to be traffic no matter what's there. I mean, I think the traffic is probably more bothersome to people that live there than people that have an office there. I think if you have a business there, you kind of want traffic. I mean, to me, that seems the whole point of putting a business on a state highway is because it's visible. And there's already a restaurant there, so, and it's not even a great, I mean, I don't want to offend anybody that loves Taco Bueno, but the restaurant that's already there is probably more of a nuisance than anything that could possibly go in there. So, sorry if that offends anybody, but it's kind of the way I look at it. It makes no sense to me.
I look at it differently. That particular restaurant has 2 or 3 entrances coming in off of Garriott as well as one on the backside.
And that may be, and the new one may too. I'm saying that's not a
There's
good
no way-
argument to me.
There's no way for it to go south.
Yeah, there is that lovely big creek and line of trees that provides a nice natural barrier between this commercial tract and the residences.
That's exactly where I'm coming from. Further questions, comments? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 6-1. Item 7.2, consider an ordinance to rezone property for Hunt Properties, Inc., located at 1505, 1507 West O&K Garriott. Property is described as Track 5 and Track 5A in the northeast quarter of Section 13, Township 22 North, Range 7 West of the Indian Meridian, from R7 Residential Multifamily District to C3 General Commercial District.
Move approval.
Second.
A motion by David, second by Tammy. Comments, questions? Hearing none, please cast your vote. Motion carries 6-1. Item 7.3, consider an ordinance to rezone property for Derwin Norwood Jr., located at 418 and 424 East York, described as lots 21 to 24, Block 8, Southern Heights, Second Edition, from R2 Residential Single Family District to C1 Light Commercial District.
Motion to approve.
Go ahead.
That's motion to approve.
Motion by Tammy, second by David.
Rodney?
Questions or comments? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 7.4, consider a resolution to modify the land use map of the Enid Metropolitan Area Comprehensive Plan 2025 for real estate results, LLC, for property in the 5900 to 6600 block West Owen K. Garriott Road, described as part of the north half of Section 16, Township 22 North, Range 7 West of the Indian Meridian, from agriculture designation to medium-intensity commercial designation.
Move approval.
Motion by David.
Second.
Second by Rodney. Questions or comments? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 6-1. Item 7.5, consider an ordinance to rezone property for real estate results, LLC, located in the 5900 to 6600 block of West Owen K. Garriott Road, described as part of the north half of Section 16, Township 22 North, Range 7 West of the Indian Meridian, from Agriculture District to C3 General Commercial District.
Move approval.
Motion by David.
Second.
Second by Rodney. Further comments or questions? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 6-1. Item 8, administration, under item 8.1, consider and take possible action to amend the fiscal year 2015-2016 budget and/or direct Municipal Finance Services, Inc. to proceed with the proposed issuance of indebtedness by the Enid Municipal Authority to finance capital improvements, authorizing the distribution of bid packets to banks, and authorizing any related action.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to amend the fiscal year 2015-16 budget as per the sheet that I have passed out. For those who are looking at the agenda, it is the agenda item number 2, as proposed by the city manager, which shows a number of cuts. That would be number 2 on the agenda, and according to the one that I handed out, I would like to make the following changes in the list. 2 of them. One is to move the $750,000 that is in the deferral for the nope, sorry, wrong line. Let me get the right one. Well, let me do this one. But move the $400,000 from the Oakwood Relief Sanitary Sewer Relief line, that $400,000 from the keep to the defer to later, and then move the West Garriott Sanitary Sewer Extension Basin 2F, that $750,000 from the deferral to the keep, which will revise the totals of the keep in the budget, $5,080,000, and the deferrals of $7,705,360.
Second.
Motion by David and a second by Rodney.
I think on your sheet, you're on the wrong 750.
I was, yep.
Yes.
What you're proposing will,
Wait just a minute.
Yeah, I drew that wrong on all the ones I handed you all. I apologize. It's the sanitary sewer, you know, it's the same $750,000, it's just the wrong line.
I need to make sure Linda has
Yep, if you'll correct that, Linda, that's my motion.
corrections. Questions or comments? Ben?
yeah, several. I mean, what we are doing is taking the budget that we spent several weeks on and throwing it out. Almost all the capital improvement projects we committed to the city, we will no longer be doing. We will instead be spending money on, among other things, a $750,000 sewer line extension incentive to developers with no strings attached. We will be borrowing money to widen Willow while we cut funds to mill and overlay East Broadway. We will be cutting out every quality of life investment we have committed to the city. I understand we have a big problem here. We are getting ready to borrow $250 million. I understand that we need to be positioning ourselves as a community to look better to the banks, to be a more attractive loan candidate. However, in doing so, the proposal that David has made is, I believe, a poor shift of resources. I think we can do this in such a way that we are not shooting ourselves in the foot for now. I appreciate the time and effort that's been put into this cut list. I do not think that this bottom line number, the change in our unrestricted EMA fund balance, even gets us all the way to where we need to be for the banks. I think this is a partial measure, and a partial measure that is not the best use of the city funds. I also would like to make it clear that if we are going to be tackling this problem, we are still going to require, as I believe David's proposal suggests or insinuates, borrowing some amount of money for some of this to improve our unrestricted fund balance, and I think that it probably needs to be done all at once. Let's not do this piecemeal. If we're going to make this proposal, I mean, if we're going to pass this proposal, and I'm sure not voting for it, but if we are, let's make it clear what we're borrowing at the same time.
Okay, I do plan to propose a second motion as part of this item, immediately following this, that will reflect the debt.
I am not in favor of putting the $750,000 back into the project. If the developer wants to put that line in, let them pay for it.
I agree.
Any other questions or comments?
It seems like we do that all the time for companies, so why are we going to start doing it now?
Well, sometimes we do it, Rodney, when there's something on the line. We put strings on it. When we do economic incentives, there's a give and take. It's you only get it if you do this. And that's how we frequently do it. When ERDA brings us a proposal, if we're going to share in the cost, for instance, of the Love Station, share in the cost of doing infrastructure improvements that they could have done on their own, but we like to do it, okay, if you do this, we'll do this. This is not an if A, then B. This is just take it. Will they do anything with it? I don't know. They have requested tonight to rezone part of it, the commercial corridor, but they have no commitment to do anything.
If they don't, we don't give us the 750 then.
Oh, no, that's not correct, Rodney. As it's budgeted, we do it.
We don't
put it
have
in
to
place.
do it. We don't have to do it this year.
not do it.
We don't have to do it this year.
Well, that's true. Now, city engineers are going to spend time putting it together, and I think they've already spent some time. That's correct. But, we could choose not to. When it comes up for a contract, we could not approve a contract. But we are including it in a budget.
Then we'll know something that's actually going in there.
If you're committed to do that when it comes time to approve a contract, I'll remember it, but that's putting it in the budget. It's a big commitment saying we're going to do this. Now, you make a good point. We just did pass a budget saying we were going to do all kinds of things, and we are coming back 2 weeks later without any public input and completely reversing everything we said we would do. And again, there may be perfectly good reasons, and I understand we need to make some hard choices, but we are throwing out the budget we spent hard work on, or a large portion of it, certainly $8 million of it, and doing so without public input, which I think is also inappropriate on any.
Although, this agenda's been out, if people want to give public input, they're more than welcome to get up tonight and give public input, because they're able to do that. And secondly, all of these projects that we talked about, I don't remember a lot of public input on any of those when they had the opportunity to do it. These aren't the kind of items that people give public input about, really. Maybe the trails, and I agree with you on the trails situation. But nobody came and talked about any of this stuff when we had our bajillion hours of budget meetings already. And part of what we do all year long, we change the budget throughout the whole year. It's not like we've never done this before. It's not inappropriate to make a decision to change the budget if we have to make allowances, and we have to make some deferments and some cuts, and it's painful, like we said earlier, it's painful all the way around. But that's our biggest job as the city council, is to set the budget. And we make changes to the budget throughout the whole year. And we don't have hearings on that every time.
So Tammy,
It's part of what we do.
Sure, I doubt, and I have no evidence to back this up, but it seems unlikely that the city commission, at least in recent memory, has made a budget change of this order of magnitude, absent any input. And I do hear from people about projects that we say we're going to do throughout the budget cycle. People talk to me, and I talk to folks. So we don't have people lining up to speak, but I'm not talking about just the public hearing aspect, which is important, and we are required to do by state law when we do our actual budget. But I mean, agenda's been out for a few days. This set of cuts has been up in the air, has been out, exposed as written for not but a few days. It's a big change.
It's a big change, and it's a painful change, and I disagree with a lot of the things that are in the cut column. But I think in the long run, it's one of those painful decisions you have to make.
Do you agree that borrowing $3 million to widen Willow is the best use of money?
I think that if we don't do that and we lose our ODOT money, we're gonna be in a bad situation that we don't wanna be in.
We don't know that we will lose ODOT money. That's just a guess.
That's
Might
really
get
not
kicked
part
down
of
a
this motion at all.
Well, David, but we all know that that's a part of this discussion. Your motion is a big part of this discussion. And so you can't, I think we had talked about at study session downstairs, well, do we need to go line by line? Well, that's not really going to be a good way to do this either. Except that, again, we did just go line by line 2 weeks ago. But it's all part of one big discussion. There are other ways to accomplish this. There is, for instance, if David's motion fails, we could reach a compromise where we increase our unrestricted EMA balance by borrowing some additional amount of money, some larger dollar number, to continue making some investments. Now, again, that money that we end up with a bank account balance that could pay for the debt. But instead, we are increasing our bank account balance so the banks will like us better. And our financial advisors have, again, told us we can borrow money at very favorable terms on just a 5-year note and not face some of these. We could maybe limit the sting of some of these big decisions. So this isn't the be-all, end-all. This isn't the only choice.
My primary reason for not wanting to put in the sewer line is I think the city needs to concentrate on the repurposing of Oakwood Mall, the developments at Cleveland and Garriott, the development on East Broadway, and the downtown housing and retail development. Infrastructure is currently in place at each one of these locations. Further comments?
The real difficult with this whole thing is exactly what's demonstrated here. We each have kind of our areas that we think are the direction we should go. We have a limited amount of funds to do it. This is one proposal that I think represents a kind of a middle of the road. It doesn't make all of us happy. There's a few things that I would move around in the columns also, but I think on the whole, this represents a proper direction for the city to go in this year, and we defer a lot of the items to next year that we all believe need to be done. It also allows us to kind of get our house in order because, as we've discussed, and we're going to have to take this action to trim the spending that we've been doing over the years. It's not sustainable, and this is a big bite to take, but the first, to quote a cliche, the first cut is the hardest, and so this is just the year to do it, and I think we can be proud of making the change. It may not be perfect, but I think this represents a very reasonable direction to go.
Would you read the motion, please? Or the amendments to the motion? Pardon me? David, would you repeat them?
Certainly. My motion is to amend the fiscal year budget using the page that I've handed out, and for those looking at the agenda, it's the one posted up above with 2 modifications. The modification is to take the $400,000 that's in the Oakwood Road sanitary sewer relief line as a keep item and move it to the deferral to another year line, and then to do just the opposite on the West Garriott sanitary sewer extension basin 2F to move $750,000 from the deferral into the keep column, and then the numbers fall where they do.
Okay. Further comments, questions? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 4-3.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we direct Municipal Financial Services Incorporated to proceed with the issuance of indebtedness by the Enid Municipal Authority to finance capital improvements in an amount of $3,700,000. That $3 million will be consisting of $3 million for the Willow Road ODOT matching funds that are necessary to complete that project, and $700,000 of the Garver, basically the Garver contract, which hadn't been issued, but as part of the $1.2 million anticipation to award that contract, that we do $700,000 of it now, and that we authorize them to proceed in a total of $3,700,000.
I'll second.
A motion by David, second by Rodney. Further discussion or comment?
Now, this needs a six votes or more, correct?
Yes, sir.
Please cast your vote. Motion carries 5-2.
So the financing is not,
It's not a supermajority.
Therefore, it is not approved.
I would make a counter motion, just for fun.
Just for giggles.
Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, we just made a budget change, we can make another budget change now, correct? Wonderful. I would move that we reintroduce the East Broadway Avenue waterline relocation, East Broadway Mill and Overlay, and Broadway Trail Improvement and Vance Trail Design. I'll let our finance gal tally that up for me. You look like you were writing. I was going to give you a shot.
Somebody talk about the numbers.
$570,000, $630,000, $400,000, and $70,000. What do we get? 1.67 million? How's my math? Okay. I would move that we put that back in the budget to be paid for. Let me briefly state that when we're talking about this debt financing package number, it's a number going into a pool of money. My motion that we increase the budget as such and increase the debt financing number accordingly.
That is a part of your motion.
I move we increase the budget by $1.67 million. Broadway Waterline, Broadway Mill and Overlay, Broadway Trail Extension. This will get Broadway resurfaced and waterlined all the way to University. This will get trail all the way from downtown to University and pay for the design of extending the trail to Vance Air Force Base, which is a vital next step. Hopefully, we can also get some additional money someday to get that paid for. And then increase the debt financing number accordingly.
5.37.
5.37.
Second?
I'd love a second, Ron.
I'll second it.
Motion by Ben, a second by Ron.
Mr. Mayor, I have one question, if I may. I'd like to ask our financial advisor, is his motion that he just proposed here, is that going to accomplish what we hope to accomplish by going through all these gyrations?
That's a great word for it.
It's a very good question.
Trying to think of a technical answer.
Hard question to follow.
Well, I mean, you know exactly why we were doing this.
Yeah,
I mean, you're
the
the
focus
one-
is to-
You came and proposed this to us, and
This is all your fault.
Yeah, it's all my fault.
The answer is a very easy answer, actually.
By spending less cash on capital. You're going to shore up your cash balances, cash and cash equivalents. You certainly are taking a step towards that. It's a positive step. It will help immensely with the credit review of the Enid MA as you look to finance the waterline project to call.
Is it your opinion that the amount that we're borrowing here adequate to accomplish what we set out to accomplish?
Is it a big enough step?
That's, yeah, I can't answer that. That's, if I understand your question, the amount that you're borrowing to accomplish replenishing cash balance is one thing. Whether or not that's accomplishing, if I understood your question, your projects, I can't answer that.
I think the question he's asking is, when we sat down with you and you know, for several weeks ago over lunch, you know, each one of us, you kind of explained there's a rough, very rough estimate, target number that these banks would like to see in our unrestricted EMA balance. By this combination of spending cuts and borrowing, are we going to get to that target or close to it?
Yes.
What's the total amount of?
The issue is that each of those two, I mean, if you want to say your proposal, my proposal, they accomplish exactly the same. Because at the end of the day, the money that we're talking about here, it doesn't matter. So, I mean, why don't we just move, I mean, we've already discussed this. We've already decided that we're not going to spend $17 million, which is what it would take to fund all of this year. We've had this argument. We've been around this. We're going to have to find a compromise somewhere, but it accomplishes the same goal. One is not better than the other in terms of where we end up. We
Sure.
end up at exactly the same place.
And I'm trying to get a compromise, David, because we need 6 votes for part of this, and I did not like your allocation. And this is not by any means my wish list. This is not how I would spend the money. There are things on here I think we should not be spending money on. But in the spirit of trying to reach some compromise, because we did not get the 6 or more vote necessary to send him out and go get us term sheets and banks and such. This is my counter proposal. And it's not perfect because it's not everything you would like to cut. And it's not perfect because it's not everything I would like to include. But I think we need to be, there are projects that I don't want to see stop. I don't want to see the momentum stop. And it's not perfect, but it's a compromise.
And it keeps both.
Well, I agree that it is a compromise. The issue I have with it is not the projects you picked. I believe in those projects, even though they're all in your ward and those are all the ones you want. But
Well, you get your $3 million
you just-
for Willow, and, you know,
What would the public say seeing Willow?
Hey, whoa. One of you needs to talk.
Not done.
And I can't hear Ben, the two of you talk.
Appreciate it if we did very well downstairs today, and I think we need to continue.
We lapsed.
Lapsed.
Rodney?
He wasn't.
You will be after David. David, you're up. Let us know when you're through.
Well, my issue is not with the projects, as you all well know. None of us are against any of these projects. My issue is what we borrow money for. And I think that the idea of borrowing money for even a medium term of 5 to 7 years for some of these issues is not appropriate. I think doing it for a major road construction project that's been in the works before this commission started and to fund the initial work on the pipeline, which is the future of Enid, those represent, in my mind and in my opinion, appropriate things to borrow money for at any interest rate. So it's not that I disagree with, I mean, if we dump it all in there, we can borrow $10 million. I just think some of the things that we're borrowing it for are not appropriate for debt financing. Quality of life issues have to be paid out of cash. The city's already told us they don't want to spend money on $50 million worth of parks, which are basically quality, if it's money that's not already in the budget. So that's my only beef, Ben. It's not your projects. It's the fact that we're borrowing money for those particular projects that I have the objection to.
So what if we take out the trail part and leave in the road construction part? Would that make you feel better?
well,
I think we already voted on what the budget is going to be. Now, he's made a counter proposal, and he hadn't have a second. Well, he does have a second. So we're going to have to vote on that, and if it changes, that changes all the numbers. But I don't think, it's going to be very tough for us, because I'll tell you, I'm going to vote no against the finance piece if you get this change to the budget. So it only takes one more person, and then we're right back to ground zero. So the financing, as I see it, is the biggest issue here. that we have to solve. And
Well,
but getting 6 of us to agree on how much money to finance is going to be very difficult.
Well, but David, you are asking, your proposal includes borrowing $700,000, not for any infrastructure, for a contract rate, for a contract proposal. Now, you can also, if it makes you feel better, we could say, okay, fine, so let's not call it borrowing money for the trail component. Let's borrow the money for the well field improvements, which is a long-term infrastructure, and then use the cash for the sidewalk trail. I mean, it's at that point kind of semantics. It's a total number of total borrowed number and total spent number, and it's all going into the same bank account, the same pool of money, and then getting divvied out. And so either you say, okay, we're borrowing for projects A, B, and C, or we're borrowing for 5% of the total amount of spending, or we are borrowing for only those capital projects. That's really what we're saying, but again, it's all going to the same pool. You can think of it however you want. And I'm not saying the way you're framing it is incorrect, but it's not the only way to frame it. And, you know, I would love for you to change your mind and come around, but I'm trying to reach some compromise here. If I was just doing what I wanted to see, it would be a different picture. But I'm trying to reach some compromise that will get 6 votes. And in the spirit of compromise, I would ask you to reconsider, just because I'm a nice guy.
Rodney,
Please.
you
I
had something.
Well, I think everybody knows what I think of trails, but that's fine. Everybody has their thing. I'm a road improvement guy. I like to put an intersection at 412 and 42nd for all the trucks falling over, or build Ben's Broadway streets. We all have to do a sacrifice to get this water line. Also, Willow. I live as far as east you can in this city. I use Willow all the time. I think it'd be very, very bad not to finish a project in the spirit of the city that people complaining about a road halfway tore up.
No, I want to see Willow done. I just know that what we're doing is we're committing $3 million this year for Willow, and then we're basically saying next year, well, these $3.5 million to Cleveland projects, we're going to have to pay for that next year. And then all of a sudden, we spent nearly $7 million of road improvement money in 2 miles of road, or 1.5 miles of road, because it's not even all of Cleveland.
And one thing I've noticed in 2 years I've been on this commission, none of this moves really fast.
Well, that's right.
So half of this probably won't even get done this year.
Now, I will say, if it makes you feel any better, my proposed change of the east of the trail improvements along Broadway are kind of a continuation of what we're doing. And I think the engineering's been done for the water line moving on Broadway and mill and overlay. Is that correct, Chris?
The engineering has been done for the water line, but not for
the mill and overlay.
the mill and overlay.
Is that something, could we even accomplish a mill and overlay this fiscal year?
It'll be a stretch.
Okay. Well, let me revise my motion then. David, I'm trying here. I know this isn't perfect. I'm trying to get somewhere that we can all agree on, okay? So I'm going to revise my motion and hope Ron seconds me again to include the water line relocation for East Broadway, the Broadway trail improvement, the Vance design of the trail.
Can you repeat that, Ben?
Sure. My motion is to add back in the East Broadway Avenue waterline relocation, the trail improvement Phase 7 Broadway, and the trail improvement Phase 7 Vance design.
Explain why the Vance design is.
Oh, sure. Here's why the Vance design I think is important. One, it's a relatively small number. But two, we have some potential, if we can get the design work done, of getting some either state or federal money to help actually do the completion. The base is interested in seeing the base connected to our trail system. Mike Cooper may be able to get something through the Oklahoma Military Planning Commission. But we have to do the design work before we can go ask them for money. So I wanted to get the design work done as soon as possible so we can go start asking for money and maybe get the federal government to help pay for a little bit of our trail project. It's also only $70,000. I don't think it's a big, I'd like to see it included in part because we can maybe get a lot done with a little bit of money. I like leveraging other dollars.
Was that Ward 1 or Ward 2?
That would be.
Is that yours, Aaron?
I think
Base?
it's mine.
It's 2.
Ben, does your amended motion also include to
That's a great question.
Increase the financing
Yes.
accordingly.
Yes, thank you, Andrea. Is there a second of that?
Yes, I'll second that.
And I know it's still not perfect, David, but I'm trying to find some compromise.
That financing total would be 4.74 million, I think is what you're talking about,
That sounds right, Gerald.
instead of 3.7, I think.
The total financing would be how much?
I'm tracking 4.74 million.
If I was you.
Is your calculation different, Jennifer?
We started with 3.7.
Right?
We added 570 for the water line relocation, 630 for the mill and overlay.
Nope, no mill and overlay.
Take that out, you should end up with 4.7.
Chris says he can't do it anyway.
I said it'd be a stretch.
Why not round it to 5? A nice round number.
Why would you want to borrow an extra $260,000 when you don't have to?
We got plenty of projects here we can spend it on.
That makes no sense.
Ron, let's not overcomplicate
I
it,
mean,
man.
I haven't said a word all night, but that makes no sense.
It's a nice round number.
Oh, my God.
Okay, we learned Ron likes round numbers. I appreciate that.
We're still discussing this?
When you finish adding and verifying Gerald's total, we will vote.
4.740.
Okay.
Same as yours? Any further questions? Please
Spirit of compromise.
Please cast your vote.
Come on, guys. It's worth a shot.
Motion carries 4-3. Did it need a supermajority?
Yeah.
Do the financing part.
Bring it back in another.
So the motion is defeated. I said that wrong.
That's right.
Item 9, consent.
Move to approve.
Motion by Ben,
Yeah, she asked, she clarified.
Second.
second by Ron. Further discussion, please? I'm sorry. You're exactly right. My mistake.
I move we approve everything but 9.1.
Second.
Do we, wait a minute. Here's another one. We have two signed up to speak, Rosalie Bridge and Winnie Mae Fenimore. And where are you?
Eliminate voting without that 9.1.
Okay.
How could you miss me?
Wasn't easy, trust me.
I move we approve everything except 9.1.
Second. Councilman already has.
We have a motion to approve everything except 9.1. Further discussion. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Now we'll go back to 9.1. We have three signed up to speak. First one is Rosalie Bridge. Rosalie?
I've got a cramp.
Me too.
I'm Rosalie Bridge. I own property in the Lahoma Courts, and I'm here to relinquish my doings to Vivian. My son and Vivian are handling this mostly, and my son is seriously ill in the hospital. I do want Your Honor to say that you promised me last time that after the meeting, the city attorney would answer my questions. And when I was standing out in the hall, the city attorney came up to me and right in my face, she said, "I will call you first thing in the morning." I went home and I spent 2 or 3 hours making up a list of questions that I wanted to ask. I have yet to hear anything, and I too am going to be forced to have legal counsel with Vivian because there are no answers. I still don't hear, so I couldn't tell what was going on, but I found out real easy that you're all having the same problems that every city in Oklahoma is having right now, is a shortage of finances due to the economy. And one of my questions that I remember, I don't have my list with me, but one of my questions that I remember thinking, why in the world is the city of Enid buying all this property for the Hunt brothers? She says she left me a voicemail, and yes, you did last month, the day of the meeting, and it was about 3 or 3:15, and I'd already left. It's 75 miles from here. And so, yes, you did leave that voicemail then.
There's my direct line.
Well, I think I have that number. Oh, yes, I have a letter from you that said you wanted to talk to me, and I called at least 20 times.
There's a different phone number.
Pardon?
There's a different phone number on that letter.
Okay. Anyway, why is the city of Enid spending all this money buying this property for the Hunt brothers? Why aren't they doing it themselves? I hope you finally don't buy all of this and then get stuck with it with egg on your face, because they too are having financial problems and their investors are not coming through like they used to. It's not like it was. And I don't live here anymore, so I don't know, but from what I hear, you have several projects hanging in the air that never did get completed. So be careful. But yes, she did call me the day of the meeting last month, but not since then. I do not lie, Your Honor. Absolutely would not. And I'm turning this over to Vivian.
Need your name and address, Vivian.
Vivian Atchison, 3602 Dana Drive. I'm speaking on behalf of my mother, Winnie Mae's Barbershop at 611 South Cleveland, and also Rosalie Bridge and her property. Both owners have frontage property on Cleveland Street. Specifically concerning the 9.1 item, the removal of structures, the concern I have for those is how it's going to affect the peace and enjoyment of starting to remove these structures now while people are still living there and running their businesses. Those streets are very narrow. There's barely room for one vehicle. So whenever there's equipment and trucks and stuff, you're not going to be able to get around it. And so I have that concern, and also what precautions or protections would be taken so that debris and nails do not fall in the street and people get nails in their vehicles. Those I haven't seen any of those trucks that are spill-proof, and so I do have a concern about the streets and debris. In regard to the project in general, on May the 4th, this esteemed body passed a resolution to condemn the property for economic development. And it was remarked at the meeting that the lawsuit could not be filed for 30 days. And during this 30-day time period, good faith negotiations were supposed to continue. And Mayor Shuey, you had mentioned that, and also Councilman Ezell. And as far as the two property owners that I'm here speaking for, no such good faith negotiations have happened in this 30 days.
We are getting appraisals right now so that we can make a offer based on the appraisal.
Okay, that's great. When are those appraisals going to take place? Okay. Well, under Oklahoma law, we are supposed to be notified before those appraisals can take place and be given the opportunity to be there with the appraisal and go through the entire process. And we've not been notified that that is going to happen.
This is not a condemnation appraisal. This is just a general appraisal.
Okay, well, you've got a condemnation resolution that you have approved.
Still separate issue. And that's actually not on the agenda. So let's go back to these properties that are on the agenda are being removed from Lahoma courts. That's what's on the agenda tonight. And that's really what we should be discussing. I can talk to you about this another time, but on this agenda, though, that's what we should be discussing.
Okay. Then, in regard to the properties that are being removed, I think you have been giving other people that are speaking latitude to speak a little bit beyond the specific item. And so if I might have latitude from the council to continue, I would like to make a few other points.
The attorney is correct in what you're speaking on is not on the agenda.
Would it be appropriate to encourage Ms. Atchison to speak under the public discussion section following the approval or disapproval of item 9.1?
Andrea,
Yes, that would
Okay.
be, yes.
I would be happy to do that, and I will,
as long as we do it right, that's all I care.
Sure.
We'll have
that's
you
what we
back.
all, that's what we all want, Mayor.
You're going to be back shortly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Move approval of item 9.1.
Second.
Motion by David, second by Aaron. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 10, we will now recess to convene as the Enid Municipal Authority. Item 11, all the trustees of the Enid Municipal Authority are in attendance at the regular meeting. Item 12, the Enid Municipal Authority regular meeting is now in session. Item 12.1, consider and take possible action to amend the fiscal year 2015-2016 budget and/or direct Municipal Finance Services, Inc. to proceed with the proposed issuance of indebtedness by the Enid Municipal Authority to finance capital improvements, authorizing the distribution of bid packets to banks, and authorizing any related action.
Mayor, I'd make a motion that we amend the fiscal year 2015-16 budget in the exact same fashion as the previous motion, which has already passed.
Second.
Motion and a second. Linda, do you need that repeated? Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 5-2. Item 12.2, approval of claims in the amount of $162,670.99.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by, was that you, Rodney, or David?
David.
Motion by David, second by Aaron. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. We will now adjourn to convene as the Enid Economic Development Authority. All the trustees of the Enid Economic Development Authority are in attendance at the regular meeting. Item 15, the Enid Economic Development Authority regular meeting is now in session. Item 15.1, approval of claims in the amount of $295,281.64.
So moved.
Motion by David,
Second.
second by Aaron. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. We will now adjourn to reconvene as the Enid City Commission. Item 17, public discussion. Vivian Atkinson.
Thank
I
you,
ha-
Mayor.
I ha-
Do I need to check in again?
I have your address.
All right, good, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to finish speaking to you, and in regard to this issue, the city attorney has mentioned that they're waiting for appraisals before they move forward with speaking with us. So if I may ask the city attorney, have you ever spoken with my mother? Yes. You spoke with my mother? Okay. When did you speak with? I understand that, but I respectfully disagree that you have spoken with my mother, and if you have, if you would please provide the date and the number you called to and the number you called from, and I will have my mother's phone records run. She has not spoken with you. She did receive a letter after we sent our counter proposal. And you're right, we do now have an attorney, and that is because we had not heard from your office. If we had heard from your office, we wouldn't have needed to hire an attorney. We would have just waited. And so I don't think everyone's getting the straight story, and we wouldn't have hired an attorney if we had heard from you. And as of 3:30 today, our attorney said that he had not heard from you. Okay, 3:30, if you called him after 3:30, and he was in the office, he would have notified me. Just wanted to make that clear. Also, our attorney had let us know, and was in his letter to you, that the 2006 Oklahoma Supreme Court ruled that economic development does not create a legitimate public purpose or public use, that condemnation of private property for economic development is unlawful and violates the Oklahoma Constitution. And in 2012, the Oklahoma legislature directed the Attorney General to set out procedures for the government to follow to condemn and take private land. In 2013, the Oklahoma Attorney General put forth the Oklahoma Landowner Bill of Rights, which Richard Bridge, Rosalie's son, referred to at the May 4th meeting. It states that private land cannot be taken solely for economic development. He also referred to the wrong title. He was obviously referring to Title 27 under eminent domain, that that also related to the Attorney General's Landowner Bill of Rights. The city does many things right. I'm proud to be a member of the city. It's growing. I like a lot of the things that we have done and improvements that we've made. I'm not against the city doing well and expanding. I just don't think this project has been well planned or handled. It's certainly not in accordance with state law, and we seem to be in a limbo at the moment. I've now got my question answered on why we seem to be in limbo on this, and I look forward to hearing from our attorney on what your plans are on how you plan to follow state law.
All we can do is listen. Thank you very much.
Thank you. David, you know how to get a hold of me. I'd be happy to talk with you.
Thank you. Item 18.
I have one more quick question. Who is supposed to call whom in a negotiation? I'm reading this letter from Paul Estill, attorneys at law, and I don't think the owner is supposed to call the city attorney to negotiate. My deal is, you established a price when you bought the station. So 5945 times my square footage, added up.
Thank you. Item 18, we will consider convening into executive session pursuant to 25 Oklahoma Statute 307C10 to discuss economic development because public disclosure will violate the confidentiality of the business, and pursuant to 25 Oklahoma Statute number 307B3 to discuss the purchase of appraisal of real property, and pursuant to 25 Oklahoma Statute 307B1 to discuss the employment, hiring, appointment, promotion, demotion, disciplining or resignation of any individual salaried public officer or employee, to perform the annual performance review of City Attorney Andrea Chisholm, to discuss renewing her employment contract and the terms of such renewal, and to reconvene into regular session to take any necessary action.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Ben, a second by
Aaron.
Ron. Oh, I'm sorry, Aaron. Where'd you come from? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you for joining us for the Enid City Commission meeting. If you have any questions or comments, visit our website at enid.org.